So hi everybody, I'm BhumikaTalsania. I am a consultant with IntegrationQA, and I'm here today to present the concept of service virtualization. Yeah. Yeah. Did you do that or did I?
I don't know.
Okay. So this is the agenda for today. We'll just see what is SV. I just call it SV and not service virtualization. It gets a bit of a tongue twister. So what is SV? Why we use SV? How it fits into agile and automation? And then a little bit of a case study of what we did with one of our clients. So what is SV? I call it an art. It's art of replicating a functionality or an action of a system that can be a part of a heterogeneous application. The question is then, why would you want to replicate something? Why would you want to clone something? So that's when we come, why use service virtualization? In today's date, when we want all the applications to the market as soon as possible, we want to test early, we want to test often, we want to test faster. We want to find defects as soon as possible when they are fastest, easiest, and the cheapest to fix. However, we all know that we face a lot of test constraints while wanting to test early. There could be things like lack of environmental access. If you do have environmental access, you would have an application or a component that is not yet developed, and hence your application cannot consume it. Or there could be configurations that take such a long time that it eats into your testing time altogether. There can be some third-party applications which is like a pay-per-transaction. So if you need to test a certain scenario, you know that you hit that third party and it costs you valuable money to your organization. So under all these scenarios, we would go to do service virtualization that comes to your rescue. How it fits into the agile and the parallel development scenario. So assume you're a developer and you're working in an agile environment. You have developed some code and now you want to test it, do a quick unit test against the application and see if it is as expected or not. And you see that the component is not available to you yet. If it is available, it is unstable and hence you cannot do your unit testing effectively. Also, when it comes to testing, during a test phase as well, you can see that a lot of times, if there is team 1, 2, and 3, you are almost in your testing phase, whereas team 2 is still in their development stage. Under that circumstance, team 1 has to wait for team 2 to finish their development, their system testing, and then you consume it. So under this sort of scenario, service virtualization helps you to emulate the behavior of the missing component, and you can write your test scenarios, test scripts as early as possible. How does it fit into automation? This is the easiest automation pyramid that I could really find online, where you know that for your unit testing, then your API, and then your UI, this is as many number of tests that you should be designing. But to design so many unit tests, to design so many APIs, there's all these constraints when you still do not have the entire environment made available to you, which you get typically late in the development cycle. So you mean component A has developed, component B has developed, component C has developed, all of them are talking to each other, and that's when you are given the application to automate. However, if we have service virtualization from before, we can create virtual components from the development specifications. We can record the functionality and the behavior using virtual services and execute automated tests at any layer in the application using the virtual services. And you can also simulate functional scenario early on. There are quite a many tools available in the market through which you can implement service virtualization. What we had chose to work with one of our clients is Parasoft. So we have done service virtualization using Parasoft's tool called Virtualize. So this is a case study I would like to share with you guys that we did. Our application under test was middleware. So at the time when we had been handed over a piece of work and said, test this. That particular application, which is the middleware in this case, used to interact with 6 different backends. Now each backend had their own story. One of the backends, in fact 2 of the backends, were still under development. There was one backend which had data dependencies. So I wrote my tests today, they are nicely automated. I come tomorrow and it starts failing. All my assertions start failing. So what is the trouble? The data changed overnight. There was a refresh yesterday. Your access number doesn't exist anymore, your account number doesn't exist anymore. So we had data dependencies. There was another backend where we had authorization problems. A test that I had written works, but a test that a fellow of mine has written doesn't work because he's not authorized to use that backend. There was encrypted data dependencies. There was one particular backend which always forced us to encrypt a particular key, in a particular way, and only then would it accept the request that we were throwing towards it. So that posed a lot of trouble for us to automate as well. And backend 6 developed, available, system tested, but when if we trigger it 8 times in a day, 6 out of 8 times it will not work. It will come back saying timeout. So these were sort of troubles that we were facing, and we had a very restricted timeline to finish testing, and this was in the application development environment. So to overcome this, what we did is virtualize all of them. So we didn't leave any stone unturned. We sat and virtualized each of the backends with which we had unrestricted access and no data dependency as well. Now when I say no data dependency, what do I mean? So usually when we talk about virtualization, we talk about creating virtual assets. So it is us who create those virtual assets. So you can do it in 2 ways, or maybe more, but I know 2 ways. The first thing is, if something is already available and existing, I just use a record thing where I can just get the recorded traffic, the requests and the responses, and use those responses to create my virtual assets. And in that way, whenever I invoke my request, it plays back that response in a stateless manner. Then it is no longer dependent whether the data is still available or not. And the second way is, obviously, if you have the service contracts available with you, you can build up the virtual responses from scratch. So what did we achieve at our client's case using service virtualization is, we system tested that component even before backend 1, which was a very critical backend, was made available. So we completed the entire system testing even before proper integration was available. We identified more than 500 defects by early testing. We also identified integration issues. These integration issues were related to the interface. So when we were creating the virtual assets, we did use the interface from the third party that was provided to us. And we did discover a lot of integration issues beforehand. Team was freed for relying on test data because obviously it was all virtualized, so it was no longer stateful, it was mostly stateless testing. And we created test scenarios that would have been otherwise impossible to be tested in an integrated environment. Why do I say this? There was a particular scenario I remember where one of our services was communicating internally with 7 other services, so there was a workflow. And there was a requirement that if any one step in the workflow fails, everything needs to be rolled back. Which means if it was in an integrated environment, my third-party application was available, but I wanted step 1 to fail. I called the DBA, I messaged him saying, I need these permissions. The third party, I need these permissions. Fail this at this step, roll back. And it would have happened 7 times. And it would have taken us way longer to test that. But in this case, it's just a virtual response. So we can create a virtual response very quickly, invoke our request, make it fail, and just check that the rollback's working or not. So there were several such scenarios which was really helpful because the virtualized environment was available to us, and we tested it quickly. That's pretty much it. Any questions?